Welcome everybody to our admin meeting for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. And do you want to do a bit of roll call? We'll find out who's with us online.
Absolutely. It looks like online we have Andrew Chorney, Carrie Powers, Jason Emery, Kyle Leonards, Melissa Fisher, Cindy Kennedy, Violet Plummer, MCAT, Emmy Bristow. In 206, we have Commissioners Slotnick and Strohmeyer, Chris Lansbury, Ann Hughes, Vincent Pavlish, Allison France, Erica Grinde, and Alicia Buchholz. Yay. And myself, Annie Campbell. Yeah.
Oh. Thanks, Amy. And before we dive in, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? So I think I have one. I believe last night the City Council passed their JEDI resolution. We had already passed it, so now it is. Yeah. Congrats to all involved. And there's a whole lot of people that worked long and hard to get that thing over the finish line. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Next up, we have a consent agenda. Is there anything in there in this fat two-piece consent agenda that anyone would like to pull out and chat about?
It looks like that's the only reason we're meeting today is the consent agenda. I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. The correspondence. We do have discussion items. We have legislative update. It's been an active session and short amount of time.
So Anne is going to give us the bill numbers because I can never remember the bill numbers or their titles, but I can remember what's in them. So
SB 178, generally revised cryptocurrency laws.
So yeah, thanks, Anne. So commissioners, we asked Lands and Communities to weigh in on this one, but basically what it does is prohibit any form of zoning around cryptocurrency that goes beyond a noise, what is required by a noise ordinance. So
it sounds like it's something we would oppose.
Yeah.
I assume that will be the position that Lands and Communities takes, is that we
would this be retroactive and undo what we did?
It does not have a retroactive date in it that I remember. Yet. I was going to say, so I don't believe it necessarily undoes what's already been there, although noise was the primary reason why that, or one of the reasons why that one was enacted. It's interesting that that bill is coming out, given that there have been a couple of other stories of crypto farms that have created noise issues for folks around the United States recently in national media. So
effective on passage and approval. It was scheduled for hearing yesterday in House Business, Senate Business, and that hearing was canceled. So it's going to be rescheduled.
Great. So does that mean for senators only?
Correct, but there are sorry, well, I got it. Oh no, that's it. He's the only sponsor.
So does this mean our zoning still holds?
Our zoning would still hold for now, yes. And I'm not. I apologize. I am not familiar with where you are in that process from the original emergency.
They're real. Yeah, it's done deal. It's real, permanent.
Over the Bonner area.
Over all of Missoula County. Yeah, that was my understanding. Well, I'm glad it still holds. That's what would be important to us. That's our decision.
And then the second one is
SB 199.
So this is the resort tax bill from Senator Hertz. Would remove certain industries from the calculation of whether or not it was tourist, and would also increase the threshold to 75% of the
effectively make it very, very difficult for any.
So what was 75%? Right.
Businesses have to be engaged in tourist activity.
Yeah,
75% of it.
And right now, I think the language is something like primarily.
Yeah.
Major portion derives, changes it from derives the major portion of its economic well-being from businesses catering to recreational to derives more than 75% of its economic well-being from business catering.
And this is everywhere on our roll call. This was everybody that are there. Can we see them all? There's no one on this call other than those folks.
And MCAT.
Yeah.
I'd say so. I mean, that will require the drawing of very narrow boundaries, should there be future requests for resort tax areas. Doesn't, obviously, Missoula County does not have any communities that currently have a resort tax on that, but we are tracking it and we are getting some comments back from Emily and others.
I feel like we're so influential that Mr. Zolnikoff's bill reflects a bit of what we did a couple years ago, and Mr. Hertz's bill reflects a discussion we got going in Lolo.
So those are the two.
We're so influential.
Those are the two that are up this week so far.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention on the resort tax, it still has a very restrictive population
That's
parameters that I still think are very problematic going forward in any community, especially Lolo.
Then I don't know enough about how statewide stuff works to really have an informed opinion. My sense is that we're not that well regarded, and we just should be really careful when we speak up, because we might just inspire more anger. And then it's not like we're going to change anybody's mind in Helena on anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is one because we don't have any that we would probably ask Jen if there were comments that we wanted to. Jen has their lobbyists.
My nervousness on the Mr. Zolnikoff's bill is if we were to speak up on it, he may not get that it isn't retroactive, and he would spin around and add a few sentences, and we'd get crypto mining eating up a third of the energy of our county again. So it's probably best to be super quiet.
I don't know, I guess we should see it with our planning folks about that, whether they're,
I would like it to, just my 2 cents, not call attention to us, because they would come for us for sure.
Yes.
I'm sorry, just the one other portion of that bill with the resort tax. It requires the Department of Commerce to declare this area a resort area 2 years prior to the commissioners taking action on it. So that's throwing another hurdle out.
I feel like this effectively makes it so there will be no more official resort communities.
It will be incredibly difficult. Not that it wasn't already.
And why is it that Mr. Hertz would like to see local subsidized services for tourists? I don't know. That's what he would like. Or he would like to have minimal services, or maybe both.
Well, I think that's it.
Would that the 75% threshold piece apply to existing communities?
Again, I don't believe this bill has a retroactive date. It's just be applicable going. So existing resort communities, unless they were dissolved, would not. I would turn to Vinny, who I would be putting on the spot, to know now that they are required to recertify every few years, whether that new vote would have to be under the new rules or whether they could just vote to keep the existing resort structure in place. I would argue that they could probably just vote to keep the existing structure in place until they try to make a change either in the percentage or what it's paying for, or those kinds of things. And then there probably would get advice from bond counsel that they may have to consider whether or not the new rules apply. But I would
undoing this would be fabulously unpopular in the places that currently have it. If I remember right, Whitefish voted last time 80% to keep this going. And even the Tigers at the legislature would not like to. I mean, they're all on the same team. They want to anger the folks on their own team.
It's hard for me to imagine what the political benefit of doing this would be, but I think your analysis is probably right. Probably a close call on recertification, but that's a bridge that we can cross if the thing passes. And if we have to
say when and if we ever have a resort.
Yeah,
I can say that the effective date is on passage, and it is applicable to those things, those resolutions adopted after the effective date. The other thing is, Josh, I think your question about local communities supporting services that tourists visit is a good one, and we do have Senator Boldman on the committee that it's being heard in front of, and I think we could see if she'd be willing to raise that question to the sponsor.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. And do you want to chase down the planning folks on the crypto thing? I'm personally am totally good with, let's just be quiet.
We've already asked them to provide comments back to us, so.
Okay.
As I said, based on that, we can make it.
I have seen some bits in national media recently about other communities in other parts of the country following our lead because of the high energy use.
Any inquiries about it?
But we did something bold and pioneering. I would hate to see it undone.
Vinny, on that one, I don't know if John's looped in, but I guess just it doesn't, I know it doesn't say it's retroactive, but it may be, I'm struggling to believe that you can revoke zoning through new legislation. Because, I mean, and I say that because I feel like as a landowner, if you purchase land based on the zoning in existence when you purchase it, like there could be potential claims, right? Like
Yeah, I
in
think
terms of
that's- I mean-
if that zoning is revoked
Yeah,
by a legislation, like,
the question would probably be if the shift of a creature that can be modified by statute before it was enacted constitutes like a
a
taking.
taking.
It feels
Yeah,
like it.
that's exactly.
What if it went the other way? Because you could be taking away somebody's right to do something. They bought this land thinking they were going to build a ball bearing factory, and now they're halfway in and like, oh, you can't do ball bearings there.
I guess the one qualifier would be that we can do that unilaterally by rezoning property, which is a legislative act. So what would
Yeah, like
preclude the
can you-
legislature
Yeah, I mean,
by a
that's-
legislative act?
That's the trouble, is that the legislature can certainly put some kinds of sideboards on what local governments are able to do via zoning. And then the analysis in this bill from a landowner bringing this claim, like as a takings claim, would be incredibly complicated. Like many of the pieces of legislation that I think are under consideration by the legislature right now, they maybe have not thought through some of the nuance involved in a case.
Yeah, and I mean, and you don't, John doesn't need to,
No,
because I just think, when you all go through zoning, the process that's carried out very much informs the property owners who it's going to impact. Whereas a blanket piece of legislation in Helena, you know what I mean? So like that's, I think, where the claim could potentially go. But
I mean,
I
they
just-
have that they're in a stronger position to make modifications, but the other thing is, if I understand Chris's explanation of the bill right, which I have not read, but if there's still a safeguard provision for noise complaints, and that was part of the basis of our zoning decision, that sounds fairly defensible to me. So,
Yeah.
The noise
It was
brought this
harder.
to our issue, brought it to us, but it was energy use that made this happen.
yeah, but I mean, if there's another reason that was included in the reasoning and it's a sufficient reason for the legislature, then we're doing both good things.
Okay.
We'll see what
happens next. Do you guys expect that Mr. Hertz is never another resort community in Montana law will pass?
He's very influential.
I would imagine he could pass anything.
I don't know if that's true. We'll see. The Senate is harder to get things through. It's just a long party. So, we'll see.
And it is not, having been in Helena last week, it is not one big happy family, even with the majority party. But yeah, they're doing stuff in the legislature that the governor doesn't agree with. So.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we shall see if that results in vetoes or not.
So I did get a call, some of you know, I got a call from Willis Kirby. And then he will be dropping his bill any day now, if it's not happened already, related to speed limits. Which we and NACO are supporting, so. See where that goes.
County speed limits. Yep.
Great. Anything else?
Just that I really appreciate ball bearings factory example being used. That's a new one for me.
You know, the other, all of our other metaphors, analogies, they're also tired. We're ready for new ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Breathe some life.
No
into
more
that
wrapped
word.
around the axle knickers on a knob thread. We're done. We're moving. We got a new
Use the
slogan.
ball.
Yeah.
Balloons next.
Balloons would be great. Okay, there's nothing else. All right,
That's it. Yeah.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.